Bow staff, 4-step, side strike. We're going to continue building on what we know and add just one new concept at a time. The new concept here will be to convert what we've done so far, which are 2-step methods and a side strike, to kind of a 4-beat type method. We started off converting a baseball swing to a side strike swing. Then we had that same side strike swing, but then starting from a low stance to the side strike. Then we started from a high stance to the same side strike. Now we're going to take those concepts and convert them to a 4-beat type of method. And this is a method that's really versatile. There's a lot of different variations we can do. So once we have this down, there's a lot of different combinations that could be fun to do, including converting back and forth between the 2-step and the 4-step, and also within the 4-step to emphasize different areas within the 4-step. Once we've completed this process, we'll continue with this, learning one piece at a time. We'll convert this from a side stance to a forward stance. Then we'll angle the swings within this so we can have an upward swing and a downward swing, as well as our side swing. And then we'll think about our footwork, moving around basically the footwork. And once we have all those things together, just with this basically fairly simple side swing, we have a lot of different combinations and variations that we can do. We are with our standard baseball swing. We're down at the base of the staff, indicated by the red tape. We've got the right hand on the top, the left hand on the bottom. We're going to move from there as we've seen in prior presentations by moving up. We're basically choking up on the staff, showing some space between the hands, and we're going to have the higher grip but still basically a baseball type of grip on it. If we were to take a look at a baseball swing, we would have the baseball swing up top. Last time we saw how we can then rest this baseball swing in 2 different methods, and then showing that from a low method, a low hold method that we strike with a 2-stroke strike, and then a high method to hold it with a 2-stroke strike. And we'll show those two. We're going to basically, in essence, combine those two to have a 4-beat stroke. So now we're going to have 4 beats as we throw and strike with the bow staff. So if we convert that, then we're still going to start at this low position now. So from the 2 positions, our starting point won't be the high position. We'll just go through that high position as we go through the 4 beats. Now, you could start at the high position. You could start at different positions and experiment with them. But we're going to emphasize here this position, the low position to start with, and the first strike being the first strike that we are emphasizing, meaning this strike coming around up top is the 1 beat that we're going to be emphasizing, the major strike that we'll be emphasizing, and then the next 3 beats will basically be setting up. So we'll start in this position. Notice how we're leaned back here, we're leaned back, and then we're going to strike forward, and then the next 3 beats are basically going to be us getting back into position, leaning back again, and having some rhythm in doing that by bringing the bow staff back into position. So if we start here, notice those open position, there's going to be our major strike, right? And that's going to be the first 2-step position we have. We're going to emphasize that strike. Note, once that you do this a few times, you can emphasize whichever portion of the strike that you want, but we're emphasizing this one here. That's the easiest thing to emphasize. You want to remember that this is the tip of the staff, and that's going to be your major strike. Notice the leaning forward here. That's going to be our major strike. Now when we bring it back, we're going to bring it back rather than just bringing it right back to the holding position. We're going to do that a little 2-step kind of method that'll give us some rhythm as we bring it back. And we're going to consider it right now just as a setup. It's just kind of our setup kind of movement as we go back to our setup position instead of instead of it emphasizing the strikes, although we could emphasize strikes in these 2 positions as well. So that's 1 beat 2. So now we brought it back. This is what we did in the first 2-step kind of method. So that's the first 2-step kind of method. But we're going to also add to that another kind of piece to it, which is going to be to bring it back up to the shoulder, the second of the 2 methods. So that'll be this method. So here's the second of the 2 that we set up, the high position. We're not going to hold in this high position, but we're going to just use that to go through as we go through our setup process. You'll recall this is the 2-step from the high position. So now we're going to put them both together here. So we're going to go from our baseball back to the choked up stance. We're starting with the low position, and then we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, back to the setup. So now we're back to our setup. So those last 3 were just basically to set up here. So then we're going to go back to the strike 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can consider that two steps where we put the two steps together, and then but the two step things that we learned before have 4 beats to it, or they both have 2 beats each, meaning now we've got basically 4 beats in the system. So we're gonna say we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're back to setting up. So we'll see this from a few different angles. Once again, baseball swing, we're gonna basically choke up. We're gonna bring the bat back and get that low position. That's gonna be our starting point. And we're gonna start from this point. It's a nice flexible point, and that's the emphasis. 1, 2, setting up. Notice we're going back. This is the first of the 2 methods we have, the first of the 2 step methods, which has 2 beats in it. So now we're back, and then we're gonna go back into the second piece, which is the high stance, and then back to this position. Notice there's nothing really happening with that high stance and back down. You could emphasize the strikes, but it's really just kind of a setup process. So we're not really concentrating on the strikes necessarily at this point. We're just kind of getting back to the setup, and that's just gonna be a setup stance, and it gives us a little bit of extra movement as we go back to the setup. And so now we're back to this, and then we go back to the strike. We're always just emphasizing that strike. So there's 1, the position 1, 2, and then back to the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So note, once we do this, you can emphasize any one of those. You can start to emphasize the strike on the back end of the stick or any other area you want and start putting the combinations together. It's best first to concentrate on the tip, however, and think about 1 as being your emphasizing strike, and then the other 3 beats basically being your setup, just to get rhythm to it. And then you can vary that as in multiple ways. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can note that you can obviously speed this up. You can make this a lot faster over time, and it becomes kind of a standard type of rhythm. We can also convert this in different ways, as we'll see in later presentations. So here's the side view, baseball swing, back up top, low position. So again, low position, it's resting on the shoulder. We're pointing basically with the end of the stick. Here's the tip of the stick we're going to use for the major strike component. So that's going to be the hold. We're at the side position. Notice, keep the hands open there. There's our major 1 strike, 2, 3, back to the setup. 1, and again, here's the strike. We're striking out front. That's the one we're concentrating on. The rest of it, you can put the staff back in different ways. You can emphasize the next strike, which is going to bring this one up to the back end. You can emphasize that, but really we're getting back into position. Notice we're leaning forward here. The next one is really going to be as we go back, as we bring our body weight back, and just to give us some rhythm, we have the 3 beats that'll give us a little bit more rhythm as we bring it back. It'll just be a bit more fun to do. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So now this end comes back. Notice I'm not emphasizing it over here as if it's a strike. We're not really concentrating on it. We're basically putting it over here. Now we could do that. We could concentrate it on here, but you might just want to bring it back over here, and then and not be emphasizing it as much. Just be part of your rhythm to bring back to the current position. You could stop there. That's our 2-step method. But then we're throwing in just another little bring that up this way. And again, I'm not emphasizing this pointing this way as if that was a strike right there, because notice we're kind of back. We're leaning back a bit. We're just using that as a kind of a setup method to get some rhythm to get back in position. And then we're going to be back into position. So now we're back in that low stance again. So notice what we did. We went from the low stance to the high stance, back to the low stance, just as a form to get some rhythm, just to get some flow going. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're going to turn it around. We're going to face forward, same kind of position. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go a little bit faster on it. We're always emphasizing that last strike right here. Boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and then set up. 1, 2, and then set up, back to the low position. 1, 2, set up, back to the low position. And so we're getting some rhythm. Notice the rhythm going forward. Notice the knee movement going forward, so you get a bit of a lower body kind of rhythm. Obviously on this you can emphasize again any strike, and you can also put the 2-step methods in there as well. You can stall on any method, so if you wanted to stall and emphasize some other area, you have a lot of different combinations. So here's our baseball swing from that angle, back to the low stance. So now we're back to the low stance, and we're going to start from that low stance, and we're striking out in front now. So we're striking out in front. We're going to say that's our emphasizing strike, right? That's the first one. 1, And then we bring it back 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Emphasizing the 1, right? We're emphasizing the 1. And you could emphasize another one, but that's what we're focusing on here now. We're emphasizing that 1. And then when you switch things up, of course, you can emphasize any other area, and that could be a variation that could be interesting just in terms of the variation, in terms of a workout. And obviously, if you were doing some kind of sparring type of thing, it would vary the normal strike, which would be the tip, versus some other beat in the pattern, which clearly the other end is usually more unusual of a strike, right? So it's less seen as much. So that would be the variant. 1, 2, 3, 4, a little bit faster. Notice you can build the rhythm. Notice the foot movement up here, so you can get your feet going on that, and that's going to help you to get a bit more cardio. Notice that the 4-beat rhythm works really well because it works well with just about any kind of music. You can vary this beat with just about any kind of music. So even if you're listening to a movie or something like that, and they put in they always got some kind of music going in the background or something, you could typically kind of line up to whatever's being played. So here's the front angle. Again, notice the feet movement. Notice how it's going forward on that, emphasizing that stroke, that 1 beat. And then the rest is going to be a setup as we pull back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we'll set up on this angle. We'll just do it a little bit faster once again, and we'll put this in place. Now, going forward, what we'll do is we'll take this and we'll then emphasize the swings, the angle of the swing, from a side swing to more of an overhand swing to an underhand type swing. And then you'll see there's a ton of variations you could do with that. Now we have 4 beats that you can vary on, and you can emphasize different beats. You can have a 2-beat method or a 4-beat method. And we can also then next time we'll add the angles. So we'll add that you can have an upswing or a downswing, and then you can see how the number of combinations are going up exponentially as that happens. Clearly, obviously, we can do this on the left hand too. So it would be a mirror image on the left hand. If we have time, we'll do the left hand as well. But if you add the left hand to it, then of course you have a lot of combinations on the left hand as well. And then we'll think about foot movement, stepping into this. How can we step into it? How can we move around with our feet and like kind of move around and change positions with the feet angle? And that'll give us a lot more variations. And once we have that, just with this one simple kind of 4-step and the variance of that 4-step, we have a ton of things that we can do, which are pretty fun to do. It's